Hi, right, in this video I'm going to show you how to rig our Totoro model. So you should have something looking like this. Okay, I'm going to turn him into wireframe so I can see through him. So I'm going to press the 4 key, like so. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on my rigging shell here and also in rigging mode here. And you can see we've now got skeleton skin and so on. There's some functions here that we can use. So we need to start building some joints for him. At this stage, it's worth having a kind of look at your model to make sure subdivisions are in the right place so he can bend, because he can obviously only bend where there's edges and vertices. Okay, he's okay. He's got a bend. He's got subdivisions here, so he can bend at the wrist. This isn't fantastic, but it should be okay for this model. Okay, so I'm going to start off with his spine. So I'm going to go into my side view. I'm tapping the space bar to minimize and maximize these views, and using the joint tool here, or it lives in skeleton create joints. I'm going to hold the shift key down. Holding the shift key down means that it will draw a nice straight joint chain. So I'm going to start down here. I'm going to start about, I reckon about there, click and release. I'll give him a chest bone, I reckon about there, click release, and there, and then just press enter. And that's built the joint chain. You've got to do it in the right direction. At the moment, this is a joint chain. It's a hierarchy of joints. If I press the E key, I can rotate them and the lower joints follow. Okay, if you get this around the wrong way, if you draw it the wrong way, it means he'll pivot from the top of his head, which will be hard to animate. We'll go back to our perspective view. Press the space bar to build this up. Yeah, that's nice. We can see that. That's fine. Let's draw his legs now. Now, what I'm going to do here with joints, if you ever try to draw joints next to each other, they will automatically connect to each other. So I'm just going to move this one out of the way. Okay, if I pick the topmost joint in the hierarchy, this joint here, press W, all the others will move away with it. If you just move individual joints around, look, you can see they don't move the parent joint. And likewise with this one, it's a child of that joint. You can move them locally, but if you pick the topmost joint in the hierarchy, you can move them out of the way. Now, this is the top of his leg here. So I'm going to put a slight forward bend in this. I'm not going to hold the spacebar down. There's the knee there, slight forward bend. This will help it understand which way this knee articulates. If you draw it in a dead straight line, sometimes when you're rigging and you put on something called IK, which we'll come to in a bit, the knee might bend the wrong way. You can fix it later on, but if you put a forward bend in, Maya knows which way that leg will bend. So let's go back to our perspective view. We'll move that leg into the center. Whenever you draw joints in the orthographic views, it will draw them flat to the 0 plane. Okay, so you can see that I've drawn that there. If I did it in the top view, it would draw it flat to the floor. And I'll move the spine back now. I don't need to make the other leg because we can mirror that across. Let's put that about there. We do the arms in the top view, but they will need moving down. I'll do this over this side, so again, it doesn't conflict with that leg. Like I said, sometimes if you've got joints selected or you're near a joint, when you start drawing a new joint chain, it might automatically connect them. This one will need adjusting a bit, so we need the shoulder, slight bend again to the elbow, wrist, and I'm going forward again. I've just got this slight curve here, so I'm sort of telling it which way they're articulate. I'll press enter, and you can see it's on the floor, and I'm going to move that into the right position. You can see it's totally in the wrong position, but I'm just going to move this carefully. And then to move these into position, the best way to do it is to rotate and scale, okay? Because if you move the lower joints about, it will ruin the local axis. If I move this about like this, it's a very quick way of moving them into position, but it upsets the local axis. If I go back to this and I press the E key, you can see the axis is not actually flowing along that. It's kind of in world space. So it then would make it kind of a little bit tricky. You want this to be sort of around that way, well, the axis around that way. So if I undo that, I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to rotate this to this position, then press R to scale it to there. You can use the up-down keys to go up and down the chain. So I can scale that one a little bit and just rotate it a bit. And I'll check this in the other view in a bit. And the down key again, I'll just do that to about there. And I'm just going to move this slightly in this view as well. I've probably put a little bit too much rotation on that. Let's just straighten it up a little bit. And again, I'm using just the down and the up key to go up and down the chain. that should be fine. If we have a look at that now, if I pick that joint here, you can see that the rotation axis is like that. If I go down, the rotation axis is kind of 90 degrees to the joint. It's a little bit better, isn't it? It just means it will sort of swing and animate a little bit more easily. So if you ever moving joints about, you're best to sort of rotate and scale them. He needs some ears, so we'll do that in the side view. I think will be good for that. We should be able to do this without accidentally connecting to that one. Let's just see, that's cool. Again, slight forward bend there. Back to the perspective view. Let's just move that into position. And it's good to get them kind of in the geometry. It doesn't matter if they stick out a little bit. When you render these things, you can turn the joints off. Okay, but when we come to skin it, so basically that means attaching the verts to the joints so they will follow where the joints go. They will pick up on which joints are closest. Okay, so it's good to have them near. So this is a little end joint here. We're not going to animate that, but it will pick up the vertices at the end of the ear, like that. With a large volume character like this, it will need a little bit of fixing when we do the skin weights. Now what we need to do is link all these things together. We need it so when we move the spine, like so, the other joints follow. So to do that, you need to pick the parent object and the child object, and then connect them together. To do that, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can do it by picking the child object, then you pick the parent object. I'm holding Shift Control to plus selection, and then I press the P key, and that links them together like that. You've got to get it the right way around. It's always the child first, then the parent. Okay. The other way you can do it is in the hypergraph view or the outliner. In the outliner, which is this little icon here, that you get this sort of node kind of diagram of your scene. Okay, so we can have a look here. Look, this is this joint here. If I maximize this, if I hold Shift when I do it, it maximizes everything. So here's the joint chain for the leg. And if I pick the spine here, look, here's the spine joint chain. So I can connect these together. I want joint 5 connected to joint 1. Okay, I can middle drag them together. Look, if I middle drag that to there, it connects it, and you can see there's that connecting joint there. Okay, the other way you can do it, I've just undone that. The other way is using the hypergraph. Okay, so we go into Windows, General Editors, if I can remember where it is, Hypergraph Hierarchy. Here it is. I usually have a hot key set up for it, or an icon on my shelf for it. Okay, so if I bring this up, I actually prefer this view. It's not as compact. You kind of need twin monitors using this view, but I like it. It's just a bit more visual. So here we go. We've got joint 1 here, the start of the spine. There it is. Middle drag that to that, and you can see now, look, that will follow everywhere that goes. So if I move joint 1 along, the leg chain follows. Okay. Likewise, the arm. I'm going to pick the child object first. Shift Control held down. I want to connect this to the chest joint. Okay, not the head joint. We don't want him nodding his head and waving his arms. We want it connected to the chest. So press P, and that connects it. If you ever want to unparent something in this view, just pick the child object and press Shift P, and it unparents it. Okay, so I'll just parent that again, P. And the same with the ears. We'll just connect those to the neck joint, like that. Okay, that's all done. And now we just want to mirror these joints. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. We just want to mirror these across. So I'm going to pick this joint chain here. So you just pick the top of that joint chain. You don't want to be picking this because it will mirror the spine as well. You end up with 2 spines in your model. So just pick this and go to Skeleton, Mirror Joints and Options. And we just want to make sure this is on the YZ. This center plane is the YZ. That's good. And we'll have it set to behavior. Orientation, it's just to do with the local pivots. You can try out both and just see which works best. So behavior kind of mirrors what the other one's doing. So I'll do that one. Oh, that's wrong actually. I've got it's YZ. Sorry, I didn't click on that. So look, there you go. You can see it actually mirrored it this way rather than across the axis. So I'll do apply. That's done that. This one here, apply, and this one here, and apply. That's good. And if I pick both of these top arm joints, these shoulder joints, you can see the behavior makes it mirror the pivots. If I'd done it by orientation, these arms would have swung kind of together, not kind of opposite, as it were. But just try it out and you can see the difference. So we've got our basic rig there. And at this stage, this is where you do experiment a bit. You don't just build a skeleton and say, yep, that's done, that's finished. You will build a skeleton and then you'll say, no, that's wrong. I need an extra joint in here. So you might delete bits out of it and rebuild it. Okay, the next thing we want to do is I'll connect the actual mesh to it first, and then we'll add some bits to it to to make it so the feet stay fixed to the floor. Okay, so to skin the things together, we pick the topmost node or the topmost joint in the hierarchy. So we go, if we have a look in the outliner here, look, that's the topmost joint. We can name these. It's sometimes a good idea. You can name these and just call this. I tend to call the topmost joint the root joint. And you could go along with these and name them all. So when you're looking in the outliner or the hypergraph, you'll know exactly what they're called. There's different ways of naming it. I'm just doing it the manual way. There is a skeleton naming function in here, joint labeling here, where you can add joint labels and then actually rename the nodes to those labels as well. Again, you can have a play about with that. But eventually, yeah, I would name all of these so I know exactly what I'm doing in this view. So we're going to skin these things together. So I'm going to pick the mesh. I'm going to make sure there's no construction history on it. We can see there's no history on that in the channel box. You can always double check that by look in your poly modeling shelf. The blue clock deletes any history. The other thing to look for is any transforms, any scales and transforms. There's nothing there. Scale is set to 1. That's all 0. That's nice. Again, the little snowflake in the poly modeling shelf will freeze transformations. It's good to reset all that, get rid of any history before you start skinning, because skin weights are a form of history. They're deformation history, and they can conflict with construction history. So we go back to our rigging shelf. I pick the mesh. Let's just press Q to get rid of the rotate tool. I'm going to hold Control Shift and pick the model and the skeleton. So you have the topmost node and the mesh selected. It doesn't matter which order you do it in, just have both things selected. So 2 items are selected here. If you had separate objects like hats and stuff like that, yeah, you can select those as well, and they'll be included in the skin weights as well. It doesn't have to be a single object. And then I'm just going to go to, I can use the icons here, but I'm going to go to Skin, Bind Skin, and the option box here. Okay. Joint hierarchy means it will connect all the verts to every single joint. You can do it by selected joints. So if you say you did have a hat and you had a hat bone for him, you could just select that hat bone and the hat and just connect those two things together exclusively and not have other things getting dragged around. Okay, I'm going to leave everything normal. So if you've mucked about with this, just go to Edit, Reset Settings, and I'm going to put the maximum influences to 3. So that's a vert can only be influenced by up to 3 joints. The drop-off rate I always put up high. That means it falls off quicker, so we don't get too much of a range of influence and joint hierarchy. And then we just go bind skin, and that's done it. If we now have a look, the skeleton has gone multicolored. If we pick the mesh, you can see it's got some history now. Okay, and that history is the relationship. That's deformation history. It's the relationship the mesh has with the skeleton. So if I move these joints about, you can see it follows. Not too good. It's pulling his stomach about there. But we can adjust that in a bit. Okay. But it's actually will be following this around now, like so. And his chest joint. So, and if we pick the root joint, it will move the whole thing around. Okay. So that's skin weighted that. It needs some adjustment. If you ever delete the history on this object now, it loses that relationship. It will delete all your skin weights. That's why you've got to be careful, because you can spend a lot of time adjusting all these skin weights and then you can lose them all. So you've got to be careful with that. Right, the next thing we do, we've got the skeleton working. We get the control rig working. We've put some IK on it, because at the moment, if we wanted to do a walk cycle, look, the feet aren't pinned to the floor. They are following everywhere this root joint goes, this kind of waist joint. Okay, so we want those to act independently, so they're kind of pinned to the floor like a stop motion puppet. Okay, so IK, it's a kind of constraint. Well, it is a constraint, and it will help you fix the feet to the floor. IK is this little icon here. Okay, create IK handle. It also lives in skeleton, and you've got create IK handle here. Okay, now by default, I think it does create the correct kind of IK handle. There's 2 types. There's like a 2-dimensional one and a 3-dimensional one. We want the 3-dimensional one so we get twist in it, so we can like bend the knees, twist the knees about and stuff like that. Okay, so what we do, we need to go create IK. We click on that, and then we click the top of the bone here, and then the heel of the foot here. Okay, and you can see it creates this big handle here. Can you see the big orange handle here? So we move that about now. Can you see? That's controlling those 2 joints. We don't want it across the whole foot because we'd lose the control over the foot. So let me just show you that. If I delete that and I click on IK again and I go from there, sorry, there to there, you can see here that it's moving it, but I have real difficulty trying to actually pose that. And that's what you've got to be careful of when you're building a character rig or any kind of control rig for animation. You've got to make sure you can get all the poses out of it. So all these tools are great, but you've got to use them in the right way. So look, I'm going to put an IK across here like so. So that does that. And then I need another one across this foot, because at the moment I can pose this, which is great. Look, I could put him in a pose like this, but if I rotate that IK, it's not controlling the foot. I then have to control, so I'll just redo that foot joint with this. And the problem with doing it like that is it won't stay flat to the floor. It needs another constraint on that. So let me try and demonstrate it. The IK actually do not become active until you key them or attach them to something. So look, I'm going to just press S to key that. So you can see a little key tick appear. If I move this around now, great, you can see the heel stays fixed to the floor, but the foot is pivoting through it. So again, you'd be animating this and you'd be putting extra keys in to try and keep the foot flat to the floor. So what we're going to do, we're going to put an extra IK. So I'm just going to undo that so it gets rid of that keyframe I put in. And we're just going to put an IK chain from here to here. Okay, just across that one joint. So we've got two IK chains. This one, and look, this one now controls that. And if we parent this one to this one, we can hide this one away and we've got control over that foot rotation with the rotation of this one. I hope that makes sense. But I'll show you. I just pick this like I do a joint, child one first, shift control to pick that one, press P. I can now move this around. And can you see the foot now stays flat to the floor? If I rotate it now, I've got that control. Go back to that position. If I now key it, press S. I don't have to key the other one because this one is a child of that object. It will follow wherever this object goes. If I move this about now, you'll see it will try to stay flat to the floor. If you pull it out of range, it won't. But look, whilst I'm moving it within range of the geometry, it stays flat to the floor. So it's easier to animate. Okay, so we've set up that first foot controller. What we want to do now is create a little circle controller, so it's easier to select than these IK handles. These are kind of horrible. Okay, so I'm going to go to my curved surfaces menu. This first one is a circle. I'm just going to make a circle. You can make these all lovely fancy shapes, but I'm not. I'm just going to scale it down a bit using the R key. Just get it right into the middle position, and that's kind of good. And I just want to make sure its pivot is in the same place. We could just hold V down and drag, snap it to there. That's okay, but it's a little bit kind of behind. I want it in the middle. I'm being a bit kind of pedantic about this. I want it about there. So I'm going to press the D key and go into pivot mode. I'm then going to hold the V key down, V for vertex snap, and that also snaps to pivot. So you can see I'm dragging this around with the left mouse button and it's snapping to points and pivots, and I've snapped it to the middle of that bone, like so. Okay, I'm then going to make a duplicate of that, Control D. I'm going to move it across. I'm going to hold V down again, and I'm dragging it over there to that one. Once I'm happy with both of those, I'm going to pick them both. You can see they've got lots of transform data and they've got some history. I'm going to delete both of those. So go to poly modeling, freeze their transforms, like that zeros everything, and then delete their history. So they're nice clean objects. And finally, I want to parent that IK to that controller. What I need to do first though is delete that animation key. Okay, you can see it's there. We can just right click. If you just got one key on an object, you can right click and just delete it. Sometimes when you parent animated objects to other objects, it can screw up. Okay, it probably won't with this, but it might do, so I'm not going to risk it. Okay, that animation key I put on is irrelevant. It was just a test thing, so I'm going to make sure that's deleted. If you, like I said, if you've got lots of animation you want to get rid of, you can just go to edit and delete by type channels, or delete all by type. This will delete all animation in my scene, but be careful with that. But I'm just going to go delete by type channels, and that gets rid of all animation off the selected object. So parent object first, Control Shift, which is add to selection. Pick the circle, careful with your selection, always be really careful, press P. And now if I pick that circle, you can see these are highlighted because they're child object, and that circle is now the object that I will animate. And then I can hide these things away. Now on a more advanced rig, I would do a little bit more. I'd make a knee controller so we can actually twist the knee. So we get a kind of, if we wanted the knee to be sort of bowed or whatever, actually I'm picking the wrong thing there, but you can see the knee follows where the foot points. But if we wanted to buckle his knees and that, we can put something called a pole vector constraint to control the knees. But we're not going to do that with this model. It's a simple kind of rig we're creating. Okay, so we need to do the same on the other side. I'm going to do this very quickly. So back to my rigging shelf, IK, there to there. I'm pressing the Y key to repeat the tool, and there to there. Okay, just click off everything. Carefully select that. No, sorry, child object first. get it the right way round, and then that one, press P. So I parented those two, and finally child object, and then the circle. Let's just get rid of the rotate by pressing Q and P again. So look, that, just try it out to make sure it works, and then hopefully, let's just have a look. We've got our basic rig. You can see his feet are trying to stay fixed to the floor, so it'll make it a lot easier to animate. Okay, so we're nearly there. Okay, we're keeping this rig nice and simple. When you've got him in shaded view, if you want to see the skeleton through the shaded view, there's a little icon here. Where's it gone? It's this one here. Look, and it makes it visible through shaded views. Okay, like so. Okay, remember the 4, 5, 6 keys. 4 is wireframe, 5 is materials, 6 is materials and textures. So you might want the 5 key so you can actually see the skeleton a little bit more easily. The last thing we'll just do a little bit of stuff with the skin weights. I'm going to hide some things away firstly using display layers to make it easier to select things. When you've got a control rig controlling certain bits of it, like these bones here, you don't want to be accidentally putting keys on the bones or these, because you'll end up offsetting things. So many people do this. They'll accidentally start animating this, and then when they come back to animate this, they'll be, oh, why is the foot miles away from the controller? That can be problematic. So what we want to do is hide some of this stuff away. So I'm going to pick that, and it will hide the child objects away as well, so you don't have to pick all of them. I'm going to pick that, and I'm going to click on this little icon, so display layers here. I'm in my channel box layer editor tab here, and this creates a new layer and adds selected objects to it. I'm going to double click on it. I'll just call this, I'll call it hidden rig. I always create a tab called hidden rig, and look, I can just change it to T, which is template, so you can still see a very light grey kind of thing here, but you can't pick it. I can also turn off the visibility. So this turns on and off the visibility. This is for animation playback, so ignore that, but this takes it through template, R mode, which is reference, so you can see it but you can't pick it. It will display textures on models and stuff like that. And then you've got normal mode, which is with blank, but we're going to set it to T, and we're going to turn it off so we can't see it. It still works absolutely fine, but we won't accidentally be picking it. We can do the same for the mesh as well. Look, we can create a layer for the mesh, double click on it, call it mesh, whatever you like. And when we're animating, we can just set that to R, and it means that the only things we'll be able to pick now are the bones and the little circle controllers. We won't keep accidentally picking the mesh. Okay, and look, the textures show up and everything. If you have it in wireframe, you can see the wireframe goes black when it's in reference mode. Okay, let's do the skin weights. So to do the skin weights, we need to make this selectable, and we need to put some animation on this guy. Okay, so we're going to do some simple animation. So at frame 1, I'm going to key this foot. I'm going to press S. I'm going to go to frame 10. I'm going to lift this foot up like this. He's, like I said, he's a high volume character. He's quite bulky, so you can't get fantastic results, but we'll try and do the best we can with him. We'll just fix a few little bits and pieces and just see how it goes from there. So we're going to put a pose like that. Let's just turn on the shaded view so we can see that a little bit. He's not too bad, to be honest. And I did that at frame 21. It doesn't really matter. These are just test frames. Actually, I'm going to go to here. This is quite a cool trick. I'm just going to rotate this foot so he's doing almost like a kind of stretching his leg out like this, so I can see any deformation problems here. This is the pose I want. If I middle click where I want the frame, if I press the middle mouse button there, I won't lose that pose. And then I can press S to key it. So now I've got this. It goes forward, there, there. And if I want to copy this frame here, like I just go to frame 1, then middle click at frame 40, and it doesn't update the time zone, so I can go S. Normally, if you move it with the left button, it will be updating, so you won't hold that pose. But if you just middle click anyway, so if I wanted to repeat this frame over here, if I left click over here, it jumps to whatever that last frame was. But if I go back to that frame and middle click, press S, and then I've got that pose there as well. But I don't want it there, so I'm going to right click on it and delete that key. Okay, so I've got the keys for there. I always go back to its rest position, and I only do one set of limbs at a time, so I can make sure I understand what is deforming what. I'll do the arm as well. I'm going to key that at 40, go to 50. I'm going to do this very quickly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick all of the arm joints. So I'm going to hold Control Shift, that one, and that one. Not the little end one. And I'll go back to 40 and key that again because I only keyed the shoulder joints. I'm just keying everything there. And I'm just going to do a quick like that. And then like that. And then look, I'm going to middle click to get that there. And I'm going to do up in the air kind of thing. Because that really shows a problem area. And then again, middle click there and that goes back to the reset position. So I'm just going to do an example on these two bits and show you how you can adjust the skin weights very quickly. Okay, so I pick this. I need to pick the mesh to go into paint weights mode, and it's this icon here, and I need to double click on it to bring up the tools as well. So I'm going to hide my outliner away. I'm going to double click on this. It also lives in skin, paint skin weights option box here. Okay, so let me double click on this, and look, it brings up this tool here. And I'll just move that out of the way. And if you have any problems with this, just always reset the tool to start off with. And you can adjust the brush size by holding the B key down, B for brush, and left dragging left or right. Okay, so let's make it a bit smaller. Now the animation means that we don't have to keep going out of this to adjust the pose. So I can just go to a pose, see where there's a problem area, and then start painting the weights. Now what happens, this is showing these verts that are moving are obviously got some kind of influence from one of these 3-4 joints here. So that one, that one, that one. These are the only things that are moving. So the fact that these vertices are moving shows they've got some influence. Now all the vertices have to add up to 1, have an influence, a maximum influence value of 1. It's like 100% influence by a specific joint. The fact that it can be influenced by 3 means that can be spread across 3 or 4 joints. If you see a vertex that moves 100% with a joint, it looks like it's sort of parented to it. It'll move exactly where the joint goes, kind of thing. If it's not moving so much, it's only moving a little bit, it's obviously got some influence from somewhere else. Now, these verts here, I don't really want them moving. So really what I want to do is assign them to this joint here, the root joint. Okay, because if I assign them to any other of these joints, because they're all childs and parents and stuff like that, they will follow that around. So the main thing to worry about in here, there's lots of options in here, but the main thing is the opacity and the value. The opacity is the brush strength, and the value is the total amount it will brush onto it. So at the moment it's set very high, so if I keep painting on a vertex, it will 100% be influenced by whatever selected joint I've got. Okay, now you can select the joints here, but as I haven't named them all, it's difficult, but you can do it also by carefully right-clicking over them and go and select influence. Okay, and you can see the different influences, they highlight in white. Okay, so you can see white and grey. Black means no influence, white means lots of influence, grey is kind of a fall off. Okay, again, right click. Be careful, this is context sensitive, so if you go over a vertex, you'll get a whole different menu like this. Okay, so just make sure you're over a joint so you get the context sensitive select influence. Okay, if you ever click out of this or press Q, you just have to pick this and go back into it. Okay, so let's have a look at this leg. So we're going to go right click and look, see, I haven't got the undo that. Let's get select influence, that's better. And I actually want to remove some of this weighting from here. So I've got that joint, that root joint selected. I'm going to keep the value at 1, but I'm going to just change this right down, the brush strength down low. I'll make the brush smaller with the B key. And look, as I paint, you can see these are going back to their original position because the root joint's not being moved. So I'm just clicking over these. You need some deformation just to make sure, because on a low poly model like this, it's not going to be fantastic. But that's a little bit better. You tend to look at it from a bit of a distance. Let's just check it in the different poses. Let's just remove that weight there. And let's see what it looks like round here. Let's see what that silhouette looks like. It's just creasing a bit too much there. So let's drag that in, this one here. Let's just fix that a little bit. Just try and improve that a little bit. That's not too bad. Look, just under there, it's putting this shape a bit too much. I'm fairly happy with that for now. Okay, and you can always fix these later on. Let's have a look at the arm. The arm is problematic. Here we go. Here's the arm. So again, we don't want it doing that, do we? So I'm going to keep this joint selected, and I'm going to click on these. Now, sometimes these low poly spiky things, you can be hard to kind of pick them. So you sometimes have to click around, but you can see this is moving back because suddenly it's not influenced by one of these joints. It's influenced by this joint. This joint's not moving. Okay, so it will follow that around. So we'll just keep doing that. I mean, I can put this right up high now. Look. We might want some of this spread amongst the chest joint eventually, but I always do the chest and the spine last. I start with like the hands and slowly move my way in. Okay, now I'm going to reduce this down and just do a little bit. So I'm only taking a little bit of influence off some of these, not all of it, just a little bit. Okay, so I'm just doing this. And let's have a look now. Let's see if that's not too bad. Stretching his head about a little bit, but you know, it's all right. Let's have a look at these ones. Let's go to the head joint, select influence. Let's just take a little bit of that influence back onto the head. It's not stretching that around too much. It's all right, that's not too bad. Okay, so that's kind of how paint weights works. Okay, you just have to, what I would do, I mean, I've only put a little bit of animation, but I would have the spine bending, so I would do some more animation like this later on. So where am I up to? I'm up to frame 80, so look, you can increase this, put this up to say 300, and we can put some more animation. The other bits of animation I'd do this. Like, look, you can see problem areas here, so let me just quickly show you before I finish how I do that. So let's just do like this. And then we go forward to frame 100 and do this. I'm just going to show you this quickly. What I should do, actually, I'm doing this wrong, actually. I should concentrate just on this side because you can mirror paint weights across. Okay, so let me do this on this side. I'm going to just reverse this because I like, actually, look, you can see it's behaving better on this side. Where I've mucked about with it a bit with the arm, it's actually behaving better than it is on the other side. Let's just try this. And then I'm just going to middle click. Just go to this frame here, the middle click here, key that so it goes back. And I'll do some twist as well, as if he's sort of limbering up. So we're going to look at this in skin weights again. So double click on that. And let's just see how this is deforming. It's not too bad, to be honest. What I might do is give this row here a little bit of the chest joint. So I'm going to right click, select influence. It's down low, but I'm just going to give it a little bit of that. Like this, and you can see that that's just stretching a bit now. Okay, and then we can mirror those skin weights across. Okay, so and to do that, I go to frame 0 where it's all nicely reset, press Q to reset the tool, pick it and go to skeleton and go, no sorry, skin, and go mirror skin weight. Where's it gone? There it is, option box. And we want to mirror these across the YZ. Here we go. And look, this is positive X this side. So we want positive to negative. I hope that makes sense. Look, can you see this way is pointing this way? This is positive X over here. We want to copy positive X to negative X. Okay, everything else we keep the same. We just go apply. So just remember what it was doing. Let's have a look. This horrible bit here. Let's see if it will fix that. Paint weights, copy weights doesn't always work, but it's a lot more reliable than it used to be. So let's go apply. That's good, isn't it? You can see, look, that is deforming well. And we should have the same with the leg. It should have fixed the leg deformation as well. Look. So it's not too bad. Okay. And the last things you'll need to do, the ears, you'll need to do, maybe check the head as well and adjust those. So hopefully that has shown you, I mean, it's shown you several stages there. It's shown you how to build skeletons. It's shown you how to attach geometry to skeletons. It's shown you how to create a very basic control rig using what's called IK. So we can pin the feet to the floor like so. And it's showing you how to adjust or edit the skin weights. That controls how the skeleton deforms the mesh. Okay,